Recently I think I saw a video by Marquette Devon on he was being interviewed by Willie D, and it was interesting. One thing he spoke about when he spoke about segregation, it was that he was saying like one of the bad drawbacks about segregation by being ended was that before it was lifted, the people with money, like the doctors, entertainers, whatever, business owners, they were in the community. They were in the black community. And that is very important and something our community is missing. And that is because those people help you inform what you want to do in life. You need examples. So, like, for instance, these communities have been lacking those type of examples of doctors, lawyers, whatever. So a lot of kids growing up in black communities, they really don't look towards those occupations as a way to move forward and be able to do something, right? It's really not even an option. Because you typically do what you see other people doing. So that's why you may see kids moving towards drugs and robbery or sports, rapping. And now more so you see more people doing YouTube, podcasts, because that's another avenue. They actually know people doing those things. Uh, so, as I've spoken on before, I do real estate wholesaling. And I always lean towards real estate. I didn't know about wholesaling when I was younger, but I always leaned towards real estate. And I had examples in my life. So I want to share some of the examples I had. Some of these, two of these people, I don't want to get too detailed. I'm going to speak about three people. Two of them because I don't want to, tell their personal business. Um, but yeah, so the first role model I had, first example, was my aunt. It's my aunt Dolores Wilkinson. Dolores is my grandfather's sister. My grandfather, Nelson Jackson Sr., this is his sister. And she was in Nashville, Tennessee. So anytime I was in Nashville, I used to always stay with her and spend time with her. So she had a very nice home right by Belmont University. She actually lived on a dead end street. The street went into a dead end into the cul-de-sac. It went into the college. So then when I was younger, I really didn't really realize certain things. I used to spend time. Her house was big. I used to like all the houses in Nashville because our house in South Central was real small. So um, I used to love going to my father's house because he had a three-story home, 3 floors, and he lived by Belmont as well. He lived a few streets over from my aunt, even though this is different sides of the family. So yeah, I spent time with her, and I saw things that she owned, like apartments. I saw she bought a building in North Nashville. It was kind of a big thing. It was called the Onyx Room or Onyx Building or something. I think it got hurt in a recent tornado not too long ago, but or damage, I should say. But it had like a ballroom, like a wedding. You could have weddings up top, or parties, social gatherings, and then downstairs. And one side had an art gallery. I know that because my cousin, her son was an artist, Carlton. And then the other side they showed like clothes or something. I forget. It was like two businesses downstairs and a ballroom upstairs. But what's real interesting is that I didn't realize until she died. Well, right before she died, she sold her home. She owned the whole block she lived on. She owned, and this block had like 4 homes, and these homes were big. Like my father's home was, I think he just told me recently. I think his home was that home they had was like 3,000 square feet. And my aunt's home, I would say, is big. It was bigger than his. She had a bigger living room, bigger dining room, a bigger kitchen. Her home was bigger, bigger rooms upstairs. um, but she owned the whole block, and it was like 4 homes on the block. And I remember when she sold the home, they were saying like she had sold the block. She sold it all for like $1 million. This is back in like 2004 or something, like right before she passed away. Uh, and that was a lot of money because I remember before they kept trying to buy our house for like 250,000, and that was a lot of money back then at that time. 250,000 used to be a lot of money for a home in Nashville at that time, like the late '90s, early 2000s. That was an expensive home. Yeah, so and then when she passed, she left a sizable fortune to be split amongst her kids. She actually had 3 boys and 2 girls, I believe it was. Yeah, because one of her sons was went to Harvard. He went to, went with Obama. Him and Obama were close friends. Are close friends. I shouldn't say were. Are close friends. But yeah, Dolores was an interesting impact on my life. Seeing her because there are even things about her I only learned when she passed. Like I didn't know she was involved in civil rights. I didn't know at one point they used to call her Mrs. Civil Rights or Miss Civil Rights or something in Nashville. Like she orchestrated sit-ins and different things like that for to get segregation lifted and different things of that nature. So yeah, so she was the first influence I would say as far as real estate. The second influence is one of my homeboys from my neighborhood. Uh, I really don't like speaking about this. I really don't like, but he's an actor. Um, he was in Training Day. Everyone knows him in Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? His name is Bone, Clee Sloan Bone. Known Bone forever since I was very young. And anytime I was around him, we really didn't speak about gang violence, gang stuff. He used to always tell me stay out of gangs. He's like, man, go to school, do this, do that. He tried to keep me out of trouble. Um, and he used to tell me about things in the industry because he knew a lot of stuff before. This is right before he and right before my uncle really started hanging with Death Row. This is where, like, he used to tell me stuff about the industry before, like when Death Row was first getting formed. Like we really didn't, everybody wasn't really flocking to it at that time, as far as the homies and stuff. Unless they were probably from Mob, from the area of Compton where Suge was from, probably those homies. But eventually Suge started getting guys from different neighborhoods all around the city. But anyway, yeah. So, like I said, I used to be with Bone, and we used to ride and talk and stuff when I was young. As a teenager, 18, 19 years old, and different things like that.
Hello, I'm saying.
Hello, hello. Yeah. So, and I remember we went to Long Beach before, and he had some apartments, and I helped him move some things, and that's when I kind of got exposed to that because at the time, my older homeboys were, a lot of them were in the streets hustling and doing different things, and he wasn't. He wasn't doing anything. He still used to come around, used to speak to guys, but he used to be more positive. Guys try, hey, why don't y'all go do this? And he'd be like, no, don't do that. Stay in school, do this, do that. And so, and so we used to have different conversations and different things like that. We speak about different things that happen in the neighborhood, different history, where we spoke about real things, spoke about books, and, being intelligent. He used to tell me how intelligent Tupac was. He said, Pac really knew the Bible and the Quran backwards and forwards. So he was a major influence in my life, really, when I saw, that he was in real estate, because one thing about him, like I said, he wasn't in the streets hustling or anything, but when we used to kick it, I remember one thing that really sticks out in my mind is that like let's say we're gonna do something that day, he would just go to the bank, he may pull out $20, and it was $20 for a whole day. Of course, this we're speaking about like 95, 96, 97. This is a long time ago, right? And because we used to alternate days, like one day we like lunches on you, and then one day it'd be like lunches on him. You know what I mean? That's how it used to be. But yeah, that was a major influence, seeing him do that, because like I said, he didn't do anything, and then how disciplined he was. Like I said, he would just go to the bank and he may pull out $20. This is for whatever he wants to do. If he wanted to drink something that day, if he wanted to eat, his gas money. This is the 90s. This is a totally different time, especially where California gas prices are now. But yeah, he was a major influence. This is one thing that I was able to see and be able to see something beyond like trying to play sports or trying to rap. This is what made me focus on real estate. And then the last one, I really didn't get a chance to experience, but it really showed me that it could be done. I was very impressed by what he had amassed, and that was my grandfather, Mooney. You know what I'm saying? Reverend Mooney. And I was, and I kind of think I heard about him owning stuff, but I really didn't know. But when he passed, he was able to leave, he was able to leave a nice amount of properties to be inherited by my father. I won't get into how many properties. I don't want to do that. Just to get back to him, and I don't want him to feel like I'm betraying his trust. That's why I didn't, for the same reason I didn't get too detailed on Bone. But yeah, so yeah, he was a major influence on me. You know what I mean? As far as just seeing that, so that kind of like let me see that there were other things to do other than what was being shown and what I was seeing. You know what I'm saying? As far as people selling drugs or And then there are other people who own businesses and different things like that. So I do have like a mind towards business. But yeah, so people who are doing YouTube, who are doing podcasts, think about that you can influence other people. Realize that you are a way for other people to see. Not it can, and it doesn't have to be just kids. It's important for kids to see this, but just for even other adults. But yeah, that's all I had to say. I mean, that's what led me to start wholesaling, and not give up no matter what, and be able to study success and business on my own. One thing I will say about Bone, now everyone I named was family, I would say, except for Bone. But the crazy thing is that, come to realize is that, as they come to find out later on that he actually is family. He's like uh, one of my uncle's nephews, and we didn't even notice. I remember my uncle was telling me he just passed like 2 years ago. My uncle George Thornton.